Welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right into the fascinating evolution of AI coding assistants today. Specifically, we're going to explore why shifting from a purely cloud-based setup to a hybrid workflow might honestly be the best move you can make for your development process. If you've been relying heavily on tools like ChatGPT, Codex, you already know it's a massive productivity booster. But as your projects get larger and a lot more complex, well, things can start to get a little tense. So, let's kick things off by defining a pretty brilliant new term for a very modern problem: AI range anxiety. It's basically the fear of hitting usage limits, token restrictions, or suddenly facing unexpected pricing changes when you're completely reliant on cloud AI during a critical project. It's that awful sinking feeling that you might get cut off right when you're absolutely in the zone and need the AI the most. And this quote right here perfectly captures that core conflict for developers relying solely on these cloud services. The author points out, the more I rely on cloud AI during an important project, the more I worry about running into usage limits. It's totally a double-edged sword. Yes, it's an incredible tool, but it creates this total dependency on a single cloud service that, at the end of the day, you just don't control. So, here's our roadmap for breaking that cloud dependency. We'll start with the AI range anxiety problem, then test out a local AI setup. After that, we'll see why a slower workflow is actually surprisingly better, build the perfect hybrid setup, and finally, tune your local AI for peak performance. All right, Section 1, the AI range anxiety problem and how we break that cloud dependency. Moving right along to Section 2, testing the local AI setup. And spoiler alert here, you really don't need a supercomputer. The absolute best news here is that you can run highly capable coding models like Gemma and CodeStraw on a very modest everyday developer laptop. Get this, the test hardware was just an Intel i7, 64 gigs of RAM, and a standard 6GB NVIDIA GPU. Using a really straightforward software tool called LM Studio, the author was able to download these models and serve a local API directly to their development environment. We're talking about highly accessible consumer hardware here, not some massive server farm. Okay, Section 3, slower, but surprisingly better. Let's talk about the friction of local AI. Now, you might expect the local experience to feel exactly like the cloud, but the reality is actually quite different. Think about cloud AI for a second. It feels completely autonomous, almost magical, right? It browses your project, edits existing files directly, and even fixes errors automatically while your brain is already moving on to the next task. Local AI, on the other hand, feels incredibly restricted, intentionally boxed in for security. The code is generated solely inside a chat window. That means high friction. It forces you to manually provide context and then literally copy and paste that code over to your project files yourself. So this dramatic drop in autonomy naturally leads us to a pretty massive question. Does all this extra friction completely ruin the coding experience? Does slowing down actually make local AI worse for us developers? Surprisingly, the answer is a resounding no. Because you are forced to manually review every single function before inserting it into your codebase, you actually pay much closer attention. You spot problems earlier. And honestly, you truly understand your own codebase again, instead of just letting an AI blindly rewrite entire sections of your app for you. Instead of a tool that just outright replaces your coding, local AI acts a lot all like an experienced assistant sitting right beside you. It's perfect for handling tasks like input validation, routing, CRUD operations, sanitization, helper functions, and writing documentation. It handles exactly these kinds of highly repetitive boilerplate tasks. That frees you up entirely while ensuring you keep complete control over the high-level architecture. Which perfectly sets up Section 4, the perfect hybrid workflow. It's all about synergy, not substitution. The secret here is that you don't actually have to choose one or the other. It's the ultimate divide and conquer strategy. You offload the high-volume, routine tasks, stuff like boilerplate code, helper functions, and documentation, to your free private local AI. Then you save your precious cloud AI requests for the truly complex stuff: architecture decisions, deep debugging, and cross-file reasoning. The areas where world-class analysis is genuinely required. And finally, Section 5, tuning your local AI. Let's look at the essential configuration settings you need to know. So how do you actually get this running smoothly? Well, when you boot up a tool like LM Studio, there are a few settings you absolutely must understand. The first is the context window. This basically determines how much information the model can actually remember during a conversation. If you want your local AI to be aware of much larger source files across longer discussions, you're going to need to increase your context window. Just a heads up though, doing that will eat pretty heavily into your available RAM. Next is the absolute secret sauce that makes running massive models on normal laptops even possible: quantization. This is a technique that reduces the model's overall size by storing its weights more efficiently. It minimizes the RAM and VRAM usage dramatically, and it does it with only a very small, barely noticeable drop in the actual code quality. Next up, we have temperature, which affects the AI's creativity. Now, when you are generating code, you rarely want the AI to be creative. You want it to be brutally accurate. So keeping this setting nice and low is absolutely crucial for getting consistent, reliable syntax and highly predictable outcomes. Just a couple of final tweaks to round out your setup. It's really about balancing your GPU offloading and your maximum tokens. GPU offloading pushes the processing layers to your graphics card instead of your CPU, which drastically speeds up the response time. Maximum tokens limits how much code the model can spit out in one go. Finding the sweet spot between these two will keep your response time super snappy without totally overwhelming your system. And honestly, the best part, almost every other setting can just stay right at their defaults. The crucial takeaway here is summed up perfectly by the author. Rather than seeing local AI and cloud AI as competitors, I now see them as two specialists working together. It really is the ultimate developer dream team. One gives you fast, totally private, low-cost assistance right on your own hardware, and the other steps in to provide world-class reasoning for the heavy lifting. So, looking at your own workflow right now, you've got to ask yourself, is it time to set up your very own local coding assistant? Or are you willing to risk AI range anxiety on your next big project? The tools are out there, consumer hardware is more than capable, and the perfect hybrid workflow is waiting for you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we will definitely catch you on the next one.